I really love the ocean, but I wanted to kind of step outside the box of doing just a basic ocean look. So we're going to be doing this underwater look today. We're going to be layering a distressed look with all kinds of glitters layered over top. I just really love the outcome of this. It really looks like coral and you're swimming through the ocean. Of course, as usual, I'll make sure to have everything I used today in the description box for you guys. So let's go ahead and wake up, prep these tumblers, and slay all day. Let's do this. So the base that I did today is just a navy. I just did something dark or something that matches the color that you're going to be using. I'm going to be using a teal color, which is called Gulf Coast, which is an extremely chunky. If you know what I mean, you know what I mean. So it has like diamond shapes. It has like all kinds of shapes going on in it. So what I'm going to do to make sure that it is going to be as smooth as possible is I have 10 milliliters of epoxy and I'm going to apply all 10 mLs to my tumbler to make sure my glitter is going to adhere down and be nice and flat for me. And I forgot to mention this is a 20-ounce tumbler, so 10 mLs works for that for 20 ounce. But if you are using something larger or smaller, you need to go ahead and go up a bit with your proportions or down a bit with your proportions, but you definitely need a nice slick coat to get it nice and smooth. All right, that's all smoothed on. Here's my glitter. Look at that. I haven't used this in a really long time, and I was like, I really need to use this. So I'm really happy I was able to figure something out with it today. I'm going to go ahead and do the bottom first, and then I'm going to let it start to cascade over the sides. The reason why I like to pinch my glitter on is I feel like I have more control over it, and I determine whether or not how thick it gets applied. I hope that makes sense. I know I say it all the time, but I hope it still makes sense to you guys. So what I do is I fully apply it onto my tumbler. I go up to the rim and do the rim next, and then I come through and I do the center, and I just fill it in until it's completely coated, but not overly coated. Then I will pretty much just twirl it in my hand and let all this glitter settle down and move in between the spaces, so that way I know if I need to fill in or not, because what'll happen is those chunkies will kind of flatten out and it might fill in places that you didn't need to be filled in. But you see here, I did need to fill it just a little bit, so I'll just come through and just sprinkle very lightly over the top until I'm comfortable enough with the coverage that I have. So, and that's how I get my completely smooth surfaces with my chunkies every single time. And then of course I'll come through with my gloved hand and I'm going to push everything back up off the rim. Don't worry about it once it rotates on your turner, because I do put it on my turner because we applied so much, just so that way it doesn't slip around and all that. It will kind of even back out up around that rim. And then I just come through with my hand and tap down anything that needs to be tapped down. And if there's anything that's sticking up, because sometimes glitters get bent and stuff, I'll just pull those off completely because I don't need to fuss with those. You know, we don't need to worry about that. So I'm just going to tap everything down, make sure it's nice and smooth, and then I will place it onto my turner to cure. And once that cures, I will spray it down completely with my spray sealer, so that way when I apply a coating of epoxy over top, it doesn't wick away off of these glitters. Once I have that coated, then we'll move on to the next step. So you do need a coating of epoxy to go over top before we move on to the next step. All right, so here it is. I put about 20 mLs over top of my raw glitter. It's completely cured, nice and smooth, and we're ready to do our distressing look over top. So I wanted to leave the glitter on the bottom, that just beautiful teal color, and do the distressing more at the top. So I just pretty much did a buffer of about just a tape width at the bottom there, and just kind of tape that off, and then we're ready to move outside. I wanted to come through and do that handy dandy distress look, there we go, that we did with our painted flowers. I think it was a couple tutorials back. So we're going to be using this beautiful copper color that I found in store. I have my rubbing alcohol, and I'm going to show you guys. I kind of messed up a little bit, but that's okay. I was able to come through and fix what I had done wrong. So I'm just going to prime my can really good. And right here, I did 3 splotches of the metallic copper here, or actually I did more than that. And then I came through and tried to do the spray right over top, and it just wasn't doing what I wanted it to do because it's pretty warm out today and it was drying relatively fast. Now I am working on an epoxied surface, which might have something to do with it as well, because beforehand on the other tumbler that we did, we were just working on a painted surface. So you see how it looks there? That's not how I wanted it. So what I learned was I took my rubbing alcohol first and loaded that onto the tumbler first. Then I came through and sprayed my metallic colors over top, which gave me that look that I was looking for. So that's what I am doing here to fix those splotches that I had made, because those things weren't going anywhere. So now you can see that they're moving around, they're making that kind of distressed, weathered, chunky look. And I'm just going to kind of twirl that in my hand, and they'll stop after a little bit because the rubbing alcohol will evaporate and everything will kind of stop moving, and then it will kind of stick down to the place that you moved it around to. Okay, hopefully that makes sense for you guys. But pretty much what I did on this epoxy surface was spritz it down really good with my rubbing alcohol, then do the metallics, and that's how I got this look. So after I added the copper, I wanted to come through and do up a different color. So I have gold as well. So again, I'm going to take my rubbing alcohol, spritz that first, and then come through and spray some of that gold. Now they do have a rose gold as well, which would have been very pretty. But I felt like it probably would have blended in with the copper a little bit. It's almost similar in color, almost. So here it is, the gold, again, just letting that kind of slip around. I'm holding it upright, I'm holding it down just until those chunks kind of dry and everything gets placed where, well, kind of not where I want it, because it's just kind of free flowing and forming. So, but you pretty much just do as much as you want until you get that look that you are after. Now, after you're satisfied with the amount of stressing that you have done, you want to go ahead and let that dry fully. I actually let mine dry overnight just to really verify everything was all nice and cured. So, or dry, you know what I mean. So after that was all said and done, I went ahead and applied about 15 to 20 milliliters of epoxy over top, so that way I have a nice smooth surface for what we want to do next. I got the coral and the quote "Seize the Day" right off of Creative Fabrica. The only thing I had to do was do the offset. If you would like an offset, you know, it's not mandatory. However you guys think your art should look is exactly how it should look, because there is no right or wrong, okay? Just don't forget that. So I am going to cut the coral out, the two corals there out in a, what are the, teal, there we go. And I'm going to cut the "Seize the Day" out in a coral, and the offset is going to be in a white, and then the other portion there, the twisty coral, is going to be done in a holographic gray color. So this look could be done in so many different ways. It didn't even have to be ocean related. Like wherever your imagination takes you, definitely let it take you there, because this look is so versatile and so beautiful. So I'm going to go ahead and weed all of my decals here. And before I get them applied, I want to show you guys, oh my gosh, I finally went through this roll of transfer tape, guys. I can't believe it. I want to say I've had this for 5 years now. That's how long it's lasted me. I'm a little bummed, so now I got to buy some more. All right, so let's go ahead and get our decals going. I'm going to start with what I want to be in the very back, which is this holographic seaweed. I'll just find a place for it, line it up with my line that I made myself at the bottom, and get that burnished down really well. And I'm saving these smaller little seaweed portions for going over the top of everything, so I'm not going to apply those first, just the bigger seaweeds for right now. And I'm going to tell you right now, sometimes that holographic, you might have a little bump you didn't even know was there, and that stuff will definitely show it, but that's okay, because the glitter we're going to be sprinkling over top, you can hide any little blemishes with that, and nobody will ever know, okay? So now I'm going to go ahead and do my teal coral, and I kind of want that more in the front, so I'm going to place both of these rather close to each other, more towards where I want my decal to be. So I'll show you more here. Here is that second one I applied, so see how you can still see it a little bit around the front, but not too much in the back. If you want to cut out another one, again, go ahead and cut out another one so you have one more around the back, but that's fine for me. Then I will go ahead and get my decal applied. I just do it in layers. I feel more comfortable this way. When I try to do it on my table, it gets that static cling to it and it wants to not do what I want it to do. So I just do it in this fashion. So some of my sun rays went missing in action, but that's okay. I'll simply take a coordinating colored Posca marker and fill it in, and nobody will know the difference. So then I took the rest of those tinier holographic seaweeds. I placed 2 on the back. And I placed 1 right in the front, right underneath everything. Now we're ready to go ahead and finish up our border around the bottom. But I just went ahead and used some silver holographic nail tape, placed that around the bottom, and I like the way that looks, so I'm gonna go with it. So I knew for sure once it was all said and done that I wanted to add just a little bit more texture to it. So applying glitter, like, or sprinkling glitter on, definitely gives it a lot more depth and makes it look even more underwater. So I did add a little bit of teal and gray right into my epoxy. I'm going to go ahead and get that epoxy applied to my tumbler. And after it's on the turner, you want to go ahead and hit it up with your torch before you apply any type of glitter over top. You don't want to do this after you apply your glitter. You don't want to set your glitter on fire or nothing. So of course, the first glitter I want to use is bubbles because you can't be underwater without bubbles, right? That's what I'm saying. So I'm gonna just take punchfuls and I'm gonna do this kind of in straight lines. I'm not going to get all crazy with it. I didn't want it like all over the place. I wanted it more structured. So I'm pretty much doing really thick lines of it so that way it looks like it's just kind of maybe coming up in little pockets from under the ocean floor. And of course, as I get going, I'm just going to use my little silicone tool to kind of make sure these aren't overlapping too much over each other, because sometimes they want to poke up and we don't want to do that. So we don't want them poking up too much. So now I'm just kind of coming through with my tool as well and just kind of placing some of these where I want them to, like we talked about. So if you want to cover up a little area, just use those bigger pieces to kind of cover up a bubble or two. See, there was a bubble there. Now you'll never know because now there's glitter bubbles there. So then I decided to come through and add some splash to it. I feel like this is an underrated color because depending on the surface, it shifts between like a bright orange, a blue, and a yellow. So because of the color of this particular surface, it's like a teal with copper, it's going to pick up more of that purpley blue and it almost looks like it's glowing. So I just added real thick patches of that right around and it really gives it just, it's hard to explain unless you guys see it in person. It looks like it's glowing. It's really pretty. So it's definitely a really cool opal to play with, especially on darker surfaces. It's going to kind of give you just a little bit different looks depending on the color of the surface you're using. There we go. Now, after you load it up to your heart's desire, however much you want to sprinkle over top. Oh, see, I was showing you there how it looks like it's glowing, doesn't it? Anyways, you're going to want to go ahead and let that cure. You're going to apply 2 more coats of epoxy over top, and she is good to go. Whether you take this design and duplicate it as is, or you take it and let it inspire you to create something that is completely your own, I hope that you guys enjoyed this tutorial today. Again, thank you guys so much for being here. I cannot thank you guys enough. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next video.